Welcome back everybody, friends and colleagues. My name is Robert Doman, and in this video we're going to be looking at the Game Boy Showdown 2025. We did this a couple years ago. I made a game called A Clockmaker's Tale because the theme was time. But this year it's not about games, although it is about the Game Boy. It's about making animations or cutscenes. And so it means that you don't have to worry about game design. Doesn't mean you have to worry about coding so much. It's very simple. It's you don't need to press buttons. You just have text and animation on the screen, art and animation. And so, as you can see here, it's a 7-day game jam. It's ran by Tronimal, and there are prizes. The first place will receive a funny playing FPG BC, a GBX cart RW, and a 4 megabyte flash cartridge, and the GB Studio magazine issues 1 to 6. And then there are prizes for second and third place, and everybody during the voting period can claim a digital version of the Brew Otaku magazine. And so if you want to learn more about what these things are, you can click here and learn about them. So definitely go and check this out. This starts in 6 days. I'm hoping I'll get this video out today when I'm recording this, so you have as much time to put it into your diary and prepare for it. The actual starting date is May the 9th, okay? The Game Boy Showdown 2025 starts on May the 9th, 2025. That's Friday at midnight. And to reiterate, it's cutscenes only, right? So it's there's the theme. There will be a theme. Hasn't been announced yet. Like I said, 2 years ago, the theme was time. And that was a very good theme. I like that theme. And hopefully there's another theme along those lines. However, today I want to show you how you can make cutscenes in GB Studio, and it will start very simply. So, for example, if we jump into GB Studio, we got the sample project, as I always start with, and I think that there are two main ways of making cutscenes, and I'm going to show you both of them. And the first one is very game-like, so that's the easiest to wrap our head around if you have any experience with GB Studio already. And that is by adding a scene. You can press S to add a scene, or click on plus and then add scene. And we're going to set the thing to the sample town, as I love doing. I think we're going to type in grass here. We're just setting the colors to be the correct colors. And the cliff, there we go. And now what I want to do is have two characters talk to each other. So what I'm going to do is create the characters. So we press A for actor, and then we're going to choose an NPC. So let's choose this one and make him look this way. Then we're going to choose an actor and put it down here. Choose what it looks like. Put it down there, and then click back on the background, and we're going to deactivate the player because this is a cutscene. We don't want any player control here. So deactivate the actor, and it being the player. We're then going to set the camera position to, we don't have to deliberately type in anything. We can just use this. So we're going to put it here. Actually centralize it a bit better. And then we're going to move the actor and not the player. We're going to move actor 2, which is this one down here. And we're going to say move to, and if we hover over the scene, the background, down here at the bottom left, it has the X and Y coordinate of where we're hovering over. So let's choose 1827. Let's type that in, 1827. And we're going to go vertical first, so it starts walking up, then moves to the left. And then we're going to add some text. So that's dialogue. And here we can say, hello, I'm new in town. And that's very, very basic, but that's fine. And here you can set whether it will be at the top or the bottom of the screen. I want it at the bottom. And there are other little things you can mess around with as well to test it. But we're going to go into the behavior because we don't want it to be under the player's control. We want it to only close when the text is finished. And we're going to say it's finished after 3 seconds. That's what we're going to do. And now let's press play. Actually, not yet. We need to make sure that we start in this scene. So we're going to choose the starting scene as the scene 20, which is written here. So let's do starting scene, scene 20. There we go. Press play. And then we can see whether or not our changes, our imagined process actually plays out the way we intended. And if not, then we can fix it. So here we go. So we didn't see any actor, but the text did come up and go down without us pressing anything. So what I think is wrong here is that the fact that this actor is outside of the camera view when it begins, it means that it doesn't ever display. So I think to fix it, we have to tick this keep running while off screen in the actors on update script here. So let's press play again and see if that fixed it. Here we go. And there we go. The character's walking in, they go up to them, hello, I'm new in town. And then it goes down and then nothing happens. And we don't have any player control because we deactivated ourselves. So now I can show you the second way of making a cutscene. And I first want to go over all the ways that you could make this more interesting. So, for example, you can move the camera around, right? You can have actors come in and out. You can even, for example, have emotes. So if I say show emote bubble, then I can make the first guy say like a question. He looks like he has a question mark over his head. And then once the other one says what they want to say, they can, I don't know, put sweat as if they've had a long walk here. So let's press play and have a look at that. And there are other things you can do as well, like setting the direction that they face and obviously changing out what they look like. So let's have a look. There's a question mark. Hello, I'm new in town. And then the sweat. And I tried to press a button to make the text go away faster. Obviously, it didn't work because it's not how that works. So it is a cutscene, and that's how we make sure that we're following the rules of the jam. So next thing we can do, I've done some work on this already. I've taken the famous rotoscoped horse video. Let's see if I can find it for you guys. Here we go. It's this is the one of the first times that they took a video of something and then they basically used it to animate. And obviously this is showing how somebody else has used like Illustrator paths to better, take the animation. So what I've done is I've taken screenshots of this running horse, and then I've gone ahead and pulled them into GIMP, and I've shrunk them down so that they're a lot smaller so that they can be sprites. And you could either make the things as sprites where it animates on loop, or you can have things where it's the background image. Like, for example, if we wanted to actually show a town here, then what you'd actually have to do is, and I've already tried it, is, for example, take the colors from an image. So as you can see here, we've got a black and white image of an old western town. And then what we want to do is use the select by color tool, and then we can increase the tolerance until we've, selected a large amount of area. And we create a new layer, and then we can fill what we've just selected with black, for example. I don't know, it's not filling entirely. Or we can paint it in using a large brush, which is also a good technique. And then once you've done that we've done that 4 times, then you can create the highlights and the shadows of the image. And that's a good and quick way of turning a black and white image into the 4 colors that the Game Boy needs. If you don't remember that the Game Boy needs 4 colors, then I recommend heading over to gbstudio.dev, which then you can go into the backgrounds and have a look, and here are the 4 colors. And it also says like the size requirements and things. So if you've never used GB Studio, definitely check out this website. It also tells you about the sprites, and that's what we're going to make the running horse from. So what I'm going to do first is cut up this image, or I'm going to cut the image so it fits the Game Boy screen perfectly. So we want to do canvas size, and it's 144 high and 160 pixels wide. I'll press center, maybe move it about there. Let's press resize. There we go. So although it's not a very good image, you can obviously pick better ones, or you can hand draw it. That's what I'd suggest. And the reason why we put it to the exact size of the Game Boy screen is because then in GB Studio we can actually perfectly place this image in here and use the scene type logo, and it doesn't matter how complex the image is. Normally there are limitations. For example, if you have a look at the Sample Town image, the grass, for example, it's all repeating tiles. Each tree is exactly the same. Each corner of the water is exactly the same. And that is purely because we are trying to save data and information on the Game Boy. Otherwise, it would be overloaded and be a visual mess, because the Game Boy can't actually handle too much information at once. So we deliberately repeat tiles in order to make it easier on itself. But in logo mode, that isn't true, because we're not allowed to draw text and we're not allowed to have actors. So we're using the actors and text memory banks, and instead using it for the entire image. So keep that in mind. But it's a good idea. It's a cool idea. Like, imagine if you were to write text on the background and then go from scene to scene using, for example, a wait timer. You can wait, I don't know, 4 seconds and then change scene. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll start on scene 20 with this. This is called scene 22. So let's do logo mode, town. And then we're going to change this scene's name to cutscene, or like actor cutscene. I'm going to call this one horse animation. So if we press play now, we will, let's see, we will start in this logo mode town, and then we will go over to this scene which we created before. So we'll wait 4 seconds, and I can't touch anything, right? That's the whole idea of a cutscene. And then it plays out this little thing with the emotes and the text. And then when it's done, nothing really happens. And that's why we're going to now show you another way of making the cutscene, which is with actors animating. So technically you can use these logo modes and go from scene to scene to make a very choppy animation that kind of like would be more like, imagine a comic strip where you're looking at each panel of the comic strip. However, what comic strips can't do on paper is be animated. So what I did, like I said, is I took the screenshots, I then lined them all up, and then I duplicated it and took the darkest color and just pasted it in. I then simplified it a bit as well. For example, there was some noise, and I got rid of the noise. And then in GB Studio, I lined up the frames. So let's have a look at the Sprites tab, and then go into the running horse. And what I originally did was have 16 of these animations, and as you can see, it would be a very nice, smooth flowing animations. However, there were too many frames, so I'm gonna delete these and show you how it looks like to make frames animated. So first of all, I picked the certain amount I wanted, and then you do that again. You create a new sprite frame, and you go through each of your selected ones, and you can already see how many tiles this will be choosing, right? And it can easily get out of hand. There's a number here that's suggesting, how many are. We're currently at 87, and the limit is normally like 100 and something. So that's why obviously I remove the amount of frames. If we have a look at this, it's obviously a bit stunted, but here we go, 0 to 4. So you got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you were to be like really professional about this, you would deliberately hand draw this kind of stuff yourself in order to kind of like copy pieces. So each of these tiles that we're using, if it isn't anywhere else in the animation, then that is a unique tile. However, if we were to, for example, I don't know, take a piece like the belly or something from one of the other frames and then use it on this frame, then we would be reducing the amount of unique frames. However, that is very complicated and very confusing, and ultimately not necessarily going to be an issue for you. It really depends on what you're planning on doing. And like I said, all I would recommend is if it gets out of hand, simplify it. I'll undo what I did and go back to the original 4 if I can. I cannot. But what you do is you choose, instead of every single frame, you choose, for example, every 4th frame. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's actually that one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And it creates, although it's not as smooth and it's not as like detailed, you're in the limits, and that's arguably the most important part. Otherwise, you can't have anything. It would look like it would have broken. It literally, all the tiles would just get overwritten and it breaks. So what I also want to show you is that there is another way of drawing text on the screen, and so for example, let's show you the original way, and then after that's done, we'll say draw text. So let's actually delete this logo mode to change scene, and instead we're going to draw text. We're going to say, look at this horsey go. And then we're going to move it. And as you can see, we've drawn the text on the background. And as we say wait, and we then go to, let's just wait 2 seconds, and then change scene again. Let's change it to the logo mode town. So then it's then a loop. So let's imagine that the theme was time again. You could have a time travel story in which it loops. In the rules of the jam, though, it does say that you are allowed to have like a start screen in which you have one button and then you press it to begin it, which kind of makes sense because then you can kind of keep track of, when the story starts. So let's see, does this work? Did we set up it correctly? No, we need to make it change scene to the animated horse. So horse animation. Let's press play again. And let's have a looky-see. So I hope you have been given some confidence in how you can make a cutscene in GB Studio. If you imagine we're using those images that can be displayed on the screen for however long you want. We then have characters and animations that, or actors that can talk to each other. We have animations of stuff here, and then we have drawing text on the background. So yeah, just keep in mind, you can show images, actors can interact with each other despite not having player control. Text can go down even when you're not pressing any buttons, and you can have animations display to bring some life into your stuff. So I hope you are feeling a bit more ready to take part in the Game Boy Showdown 2025 Cutscene Edition, and I'm looking forward to see what you guys make. Please keep in mind as well, there's music. I might quickly touch on that. As you might know, if you go into the music over here, then there are music, like there's already example music that you can use, and you can easily create a new one just by clicking plus here and pressing the tick. And then drawing on, we have 4 channels here, right? Duty 1, Duty 2, Wave, and Noise. Duty 1 uses the Duty instruments, Wave channel uses the Wave instruments, and the Noise channel uses the Noise instruments. So it's very limited, it's 4 channels. You can look at it in tracker mode if you're used to OpenMPT or Milky Tracker. And then this will bring more life to your cutscenes, because let's say, for example, when he puts up the question mark, we can say insert event after and say play music track, and we can say let's play the space emergency track. And suddenly the game is 3-dimensional, right? It shoots out at you as to the viewer. And you can layer up these things. You can't really layer them, like you can't play multiple tracks at once, but you can layer them up with your story to make sure that you're conveying the emotions you want the viewer to have. So yeah, I hope that you have learnt something from this, and I hope that you're excited. I hope that you have time. I hope you can see that how quickly you could make something. Obviously, making the specific actors and stuff might take a bit longer than you're used to, depending on your idea. But I do think this is a really good way to start making stuff in GB Studio. My first game was a Western ballad, and it was very story driven. It had cutscene elements like this in between you as the player walking to go and to like talk to people, right? So if you think about games as cutscenes separated by player movements, then by making cutscene, you're already halfway to making a story game, right? So yeah, I do think this is a great idea. So yeah, I'll put my patrons up on the screen right now. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys are absolute best. Any video suggestions, you guys get first priority. And yeah, please let me know if you have any issues. You can email me, or you can support me on Patreon. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys, and hopefully I'll see you taking part in this jam. All the best. Peace out.